So your name is Scott Miller?
Yes, I founded the company back in '87, and I just kind of been hanging around ever since.
All right, so can you tell me a bit about Iron Maiden?
Sure. It's a game that uses our engine that we developed back in the mid '90s, along with the programmer Ken Silverman. It's just something that, there's a lot of retro games coming out nowadays, and we thought, let's put our hand in that pond, but instead of using a modern engine, let's use our original engine. So we kind of dusted it off. It's been improved in some ways, but for the most part, it looks just like it did back in the '90s when we did, Shadowware and Duke with it. We increased the texture size. This game never used like 3D models like modern engines did. So it used sprites, but we increased the texture size on that to reduce the pixelation. We made it to where the lighting is a little better. Like, it still uses a 256 color palette as a starting spot, but instead of the shadowing only using from that 256 color palette, we actually use millions of colors to get the shadowing to look a lot better and to add some colored lighting to the game. Another factor is that the levels don't need to like in the old games, when you reached a level, you actually had to stop the game and reload the next level. Here, modern technology, we can load a level in within like a second, and so we have a seamless progression through the levels of this game. You never actually reach an end of the level screen that gives you like your par time and stuff like we did back in the '90s.
What's stopping you from, say, porting this game to like an old 486?
Probably not a lot, actually. But you know what? This game uses a software renderer. It doesn't use hardware to render the scene. So even though it's a 1996, 97, 98 engine, it still actually kind of pushes current technology to, we're pushing the limits on it because we're making the environments a lot bigger, increasing texture size, like I said, and the engine wasn't really made to take advantage of modern tricks. So it really does push the computer to a limit. We have to actually, even though the size of the levels are a lot bigger nowadays in this game, we're maxing it out. We couldn't. So to take this game back to 486 or Pentium technology for a CPU, we'd actually have to reduce the level sizes quite a bit.
Are you putting this game out in the big box?
Yeah, we sure are.
Where are you going to be selling the big box?
It'll be on our store, on our web, on our 3droms.com site.
Do you think there's a charm to putting out a game on like a CD and a box in 2018?
I think that a lot of people like to collect these things. So yeah, I think there's still a market for it. I know I would want one if I was a fan of a game. So I think we're going to come out with like a limited edition 500, and if it does really well, then we may come out with like a second edition with a smaller version of the big box, maybe less goodies, just for people who like to have something on the shelf.
What goodies will be packed into the box?
We haven't decided yet. We have some ideas, a mouse pad. We're trying maybe some of the same kind of stuff we would have done back in the '90s. Even maybe a shirt in there. So we're still deciding.
There's similar question. There's a charm to putting out a game using this engine. Do you think that somebody who remembers this game and Quake and all that from the mid '90s will see this game and they'll remember this engine and they'll be interested through that?
So far, that's like 100% of the feedback that we're getting from people who are playing the game. People are like, "Oh my God, this thing brings me back to my childhood. It just feels like the game I grew up playing." Nowadays games don't feel this way anymore. So yeah, we've touched a nostalgic nerve. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much when we started this project. It's gone way above my expectations, and there's definitely a nerve that we've touched with it. Yeah.
How long did it take to develop the game?
It's been about an 18-month project so far, with a team that's kind of mainly part-time. So it's more of a passion project for these developers. But if the game does well, and so far it's off to a good start, then I think that a lot of these developers that are on the project are going to become full-timers.
What is your personal favorite aspect of the game?
It just feels like the kind of game from the '90s that were personally my favorite. I loved from the Doom age, the Duke Nukem age, games that were really about gameplay that didn't necessarily have the best graphics. So to me it just brings me back home.
Tell me a bit about the plot of the game and the main character.
Well, in the preview campaign, we're really not touching on the story. That's all going to be in the full campaign when it comes out. So this is a character that I actually came up with back in 1998 called Bombshell, and this is like the story of her. When the game comes out, it'll be the story of her. It's like an origin story for her, and so it's. I mean, in lots of ways, it's like a little bit of a female, kick-ass version of Duke, but she's not fighting aliens, and just we're going to try and keep it more realistic than we did back in the Duke day, and it really brings sort of a meaningful story to her life. But still, it's all about the fun and the gameplay and kicking ass and weapons. So we're not going to have a deep story in the game when it's finished.
When are you planning to launch the game and on what platforms?
Sure, we don't have a set date yet. We're looking for August, September, hopefully. Just PC now, but we'll definitely be on the Xbox and the PlayStation. Maybe the Switch, we're not sure yet, but definitely the big two.
Lastly, what is your favorite 3D Realms game?
Oh yeah, nice.
I would have to say the first Max Payne. It just, everything we set out to do with that game, we came through with. I mean, we had the character, the way we told the story. I mean, we had some certain goals for that game. The bullet time. I mean, just everything worked out to perfection in that game. I really loved it.